You cause a lot of chat in the background, Fouad, that's for sure. I don't know where to go first. I don't know if there's any comments from colleagues immediately, or we can go to the chat and see if there's any.
See,
Uh,
Bruce is coming on camera.
Yeah, I was
oh,
only going to
Bruce.
feel Beth's comment stood out for me actually. Compliance by design. The comment about bringing legal with us. It's our fault they're out of touch because we're not bringing them with us. I think is well made me laugh anyway. I think that's very true. Um, this is all very scary for anybody working in an MLR kind of job, medical legal review type job, and I don't know how you solve that problem, but I think they need to be part of solving the problem, not on the tail end of we'd like to solve the problem, please sign this off. In contrast, I will say my early discussions with people in medical and legal roles on this topic, they seem to want to run a mile from it. They don't want to run to it, they want to run away from it. And I don't know how we bridge that gap. They need to be part of solving the problem, but they don't want to have a conversation about the problem at the minute, as far as I can see.
To,
This is Beth. I would love
I
to weigh
bet.
in. I'm the one who made the compliance by design comment. And sorry, I'm not able to go on camera at the moment. In my experience, being able to make really great headway on that while I was head of commercial data strategy at Merck was exactly that. There are very few people who can speak tech, uh, legalese, and business simultaneously. But as soon as you can get that person in the conversation, everything moves much more quickly. So a huge amount of issues that we had seen, for example, if you're talking about IDs of HCPs, and again, this is in US, so we have a lot more data. But if we wanted to do bridging of cookies and IP addresses, et cetera, behind the scenes in a compliant privacy way, part of the issue that literally was just put off into legal world for a year and a half until we brought in someone who speaks all those languages was they could not talk. There's an IP address, then there's tokenization, then there's actual IDs and NPI IDs, and what are all those different things? And because they couldn't actually have that conversation, it just got put off and put off and put off without anyone realizing that it was simply a language and understanding issue on the legal side. Other issues where we saw that they couldn't move forward from one therapeutic area to another is that a legal team lead had come from an area where data hadn't been available before. And so her assumptions as she moved to a place where data was available, a different therapeutic area which functioned in a different way for the transactional data to be able to track that. When she moved in that space, it was completely feasible and had been happening for decades. But she thought it wasn't allowed to happen because the world she came from, it didn't happen. And when we pushed back on that and said, go talk to your colleagues in these other areas, it was instantly agreed. 2 years of negotiation with legal on that. And it just said, go talk to your colleagues.
Wow.
This is Robin. The way I tackled it with my MLR team is I got AI to prioritize the content that was going through MLR. So were we just asking for a change of a graphic? Were we asking for a change of use? Were we asking for a change of a headline? Were we rewriting the whole of the first 3 paragraphs? And by putting the MLR content with that AI generated assessment, it approved their efficiency because they were really quick to approve some content when it was just a minor change, such as a graphic or a bit of use. And that's how I've started to bring them on board with the journey, by addressing the process.
Quick question on that one. Did you go directly to the legal to ask them if they were open to that, or did you go through a commercial space to have that happen? Because I found that the commercial people are frightened to address the legal people in that way, but the legal people are actually open to it.
In my personal case, I approached all 3 departments, legal, regulatory, and medical, and said I wanted to introduce a way to help them approve their efficiency on approvals.
Excellent. Yep. You went to all 3.
One of the things that I was going through with, like, PCG really fantastic reports on applying of AI, and this is not particular for pharma. It's, what is the steps, the framework when you're going to apply in big organization, and one part is the process really. And here is like, emphasis on emphasizing about, the establishing the process and governance and policies before you start to apply it in different places. So don't leave it to, like, different departments to suggest or maybe to initiate how they're going to apply AI. A leadership should be like setting this tone through the process, i.e., if you're going to add AI for MLR, right? What is the process for that? What is the functions that need to be involved? Who would be like, approving that? And what is the, getting the buy-in from all the functions about it, agreeing on that before you go and make it like, happen. And also don't leave it like to individual people to initiate it themselves and trying to make up their way as to how to implement it. So I guess the leadership here is really very important and crucial to step in and set the tone, put in the governance, the SOPs, the processes, and having all people buy in on that before you start to apply. What are the use cases that you're going to be pilot before you applying it permanently.
Okay, we've got a hand up from Tony. I can see a few people have come off mute. So we're going to go to Tony next. If you want to ask a question, it helps us if you put your hand up on the icon and then we cue the questions. Okay,
can we unshare the slides as well so we can see more faces?
Oh, yeah.
Over to you, Tony. Next up.
Thanks, Paul. Along the comment from Beth, and okay, I haven't been working for the last 4 months, so I've been out of action, but I recall discussions with a couple of companies earlier this year who were, for political reasons, and maybe they were not ready, but they were afraid to put performance measures in managers' contracts to reach certain goals because, they were not ready, or they felt uncomfortable about doing this. The managers were rather uncomfortable. So Beth's comment about finding somebody who has the IT jargon knowledge and who is commercially sound and in this industry, this is a unique find. But I found this to be a bit of a delay in that there was a political, if not internal, sort of performance measure delay. Has that changed, or is it still an issue?
I think one of the things that's really important, and to your point, is having like domain experts whenever you're designing, your AI model. For example, you're talking about contracts, right? Not the IT who are gonna decide what is the AI model will help you with, as much as somebody who's working on contracting, who's been there on the ground, working with different customers, stakeholders, supply chain, commercial, etc., who know exactly what is the pain point and what are the things that they believe that might help them to make this work productive, efficient, and then working alongside the IT or the developers who is implementing that solution to implement that, rather than just keeping it like, I applied AI for contracting, but there is no any benefit from that because the domain expert, people who understand that very well, wasn't there. So again, having a strategy of implementing AI is really very important. It's not the tool who's going to lead us to apply as much as the strategy why we're doing that, and should be like cross-functionally done.
Yeah, I would agree, Fouad, because what we see often is that the AI pilot is driven from an omni team or an innovation team who don't understand the operation of the end product. So you end up with it getting logjammed. Dave, I can see you've been off mute for a while. Dave, your next question.
Yeah, thanks. It was a question about how much the bottom right corner on the last slide was all about the value that the AI brings, and it has been quite clear. Let's think about why we're doing it, what the problem is, what the value is. I wonder if anyone's thought through what the negative consequences of introducing the AI as part of that assessment. So, for example, next best action for someone in a field force. At the moment, you need relatively intelligent people in the field to be able to think about what the next best thing to do is, analyze the data, think about who their customers are and all that sort of care, a local knowledge. If you give them an AI system that says, right, your next best action is that, do we stop thinking?
We do. I'm going to be honest. Yeah. I mean, but again, until we, I mean, I don't, because I still at the stage where I examine everything really coming from AI.
Yeah.
But maybe I think there was a graph that I didn't have the time to see. It's the sync between the AI and the human. So the graph, it depends on the level of sophistication of the AI tool versus the expertise of the person. If the person is really expert in their domain, and we have excellent vetted AI tool, also very excellent, then that's the best marriage. But if there is any shortage of the expertise of the person, or the AI tool is not as good, then a human oversight here should be very important and crucial. And the output, the final output, and the sign off of the output should be by the human, because you don't wanna, again, you need to keep, to your point, human thinking and vetting and challenging the AI. Until we're at the point with such models or agents, what they call it now, those agents are trusted enough because they are trained enough, and you've seen a lot of good output out of them. And whenever the output is not good, you retrain them again with what should be good. Until you trust them, you need to think a lot, really. But then again, it should be trusted by, maybe we can start with small things, low risk things, until we trust, and then maybe scale that up to bigger, maybe decisions. For example, I was listening to somebody's very expert in healthcare, and they said we might be like trusting AI to diagnose some really very small, like undangerous kind of diseases, rather than having a patient with like heart disease be diagnosed by AI. But we can't trust them with a cold and flu and those small tiny things, infection in the ear, whatever. But we need to, it takes a lot of time to trust them with this. But then once we trust them, we can build on that on more serious illnesses. So I think, the time, it will take time. I don't know when it's going to be fully, and whether the human, would be allowing AI to do that at a certain point. That's yet to be helpful.
Yeah, I think with Beth, where she says we need humans in the loop always. And I think, the danger we've got is, I think you'd said earlier, the people who are taking the decisions about the implementation aren't the people at the coal face. And that's the same about, deploying people in sales teams. There'll be somebody with a spreadsheet somewhere saying, well, that's terribly expensive. We don't need to pay people at that grade if we can pay them at a lower grade, but they don't need to think quite so much because we've got the AI doing all that for them. So let's do this. And then at some point, they'll suddenly realize they actually haven't got the expertise that the doctors trust and respect, or the medical profession trust and respect. So I think we need to walk into this very carefully, not being a Luddite or anything, but I think technology is fantastic and it's terribly exciting. But I think we often jump at, isn't this brilliant? Let's just have a good go at it, without really stopping to think through the use case, the problem, and all the rest of it. So thank you. Terribly interesting.
Don't worry, Dave. None of us are redundant yet, I think.
We've got a hand up from Akram, and I can also see that Sanjay and Tom have come off mute. So let's go with Akram next, and then put your hand up icon, and then we know that you've got a question.
You're on mute.
I think we'll hear you.
You're on mute, Akram.
No, I can't hear you, Akram, but you seem to be on mute now.
Okay. Hey, put the question into chat. What I'll do, Tom, you've been off mute for a while. Do you want to jump in? Have you got a question?
I really didn't.
Sorry, Tom.
But since you put me on the spot, I'm being reflective here a bit, chuckling in some hands. Anyone had any kids try to write a thank you note recently or do an outline? Some of these things, it's just, that the thinking and, I think of just the comment to the thinking that needs to go with this. We become very reliant sometimes. And I even think to the analogy that what took place it all became about PDEs and costs of PDEs and structure. We built these sales forces that way over expanded the needs that were needed in the marketplace. And, it was kind of an example to me that the thinking didn't take place of really kind of some practical applications. So I find it interesting, but I still, I think I'm trying to think through just finding that balance where, okay, how is it a tool, but doesn't take the human out of this for the practical thinking? And then on a very practical note, I was also intrigued with the LMR discussion. And I'm really kind of naively asking it, but it was just, how do things practically get referenced and annotated and all those things, when some of this is used? And, do you have to somehow do the teams require you really to get to original sourcing somehow? So I don't know, Paul, it's a long-winded. Those were just some of the things I was thinking about as I was kind of listening.
I mean, I wanted to pick up on sort of building a little bit on that, Tom. Right, Fouad, you made the comment about, start easy, and you made the analogy to colds. I think that's the right way to do it. I mean, I had a discussion with a company recently, and I won't name them, but, I said, well, we're putting a website together, a brand.com website. I'm saying, well, why don't you confine the AI to a sandpit? It can only go to certain data sources, and just let it answer natural language questions and put a big blooming health warning around the outside that says, this is an AI, treat with extreme caution. If it sounds a bit iffy, it may well be, press here to speak to a human being, which seemed an eminently sensible thing to my mind anyway. But I mean, that was way too scary for the medic in question, who's, I would say, quite average in terms of attitude to risk. And yet the same company in a different country, they're doing exactly that, but they're calling it an FAQ. And it's just exactly the same process, and it's live at the moment, so customers can access it. And the argument I had with the medic, which I thought was also a good argument, was I said, well, all this data is in the public domain anyway. What do you think happens when someone goes onto Google and asks the same question? It's accessing the same data. Is it not better to at least try and steer people? But no, apparently not. I don't know. I think we'll get there, but I think it's slow.
Sanjay, you've been patiently waiting. Your hands up. You're next. You're in the chair.
Thank you so much. So Fouad, very nice talk. Nice overview. Maybe I'm a little confused. In one of the earlier slides, you said that there will be about a cost saving of $50 to $70 billion across pharma industry, if I got that number correct. And then in the later part of your talk, you did talk about some of the challenges, and you did say that the ROI is questionable. So I wonder whether, say, at one point you say there's a big savings, and, where that number is coming from. And then at the same time, people are still unsure about ROI, then why they are making that investment. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
If at all they're making that investment, which areas are trying to make more investment at this point, so they can see that there is going to be some ROI coming out of that investment?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the return of investment, I think, in the pilots that they are doing now. So they're running a lot of pilots to see what is the kind of productivity level A, and then B, what is the effect of this particular AI on the output. Like, be it like, are we saving if we apply AI in this particular job, and that will give us more return from having higher productivity, having more revenue, or saving maybe in our operations, etc., etc. So there is a huge pilots, different pilots. There are some places where it's been established that it's good and it's saving, like MLR, like the content optimization and personalization, like the kind of the digital footprint analysis. So all of that proved to be saving money, and that's where I said there is saving. And also the productivity, like saving time of people from reading 30 emails in half a day. Now it's just like 10 minutes. So that will give them free up more time. So that's, I think, the modeling here about, what is the FTE cost for you and what is the productivity of them. It's been proven in some areas, but I'm talking about the rest of investment in piloting and doing new things, innovative things here. Is it effective? Especially when you scale it up globally, especially for global pharma, when you scale it up in 50 countries, will it be applicable? And what is the investment that you need to do from change management and all of that, looking into these numbers before applying it? So sorry for the confusion if it wasn't clear.
Okay, thank you.
I think the 2% said a lot as well at the start, is the fact that 2% of the spend is still being allocated to sales and marketing. So it tells us that there's still a hesitation in understanding where to put this. I mean, just to give you an idea as well, I got a cold call this week from a typical offshore cold call company saying they wanted to sell me some AI. They didn't really understand my business. They just said, you need to buy some AI. So I think the other problem out there is there's an awful lot of charlatans at the moment trying to misuse the concept to sell into pharma. And that probably is also the case with the big agencies, because they are maybe presenting those very big saving possibilities to get in the door. And then really the use cases that they can attach value to Sanjay's point, are limited. But let's face it, this is the sixth wave of innovation that's going to change the planet. The last time it was data and computing. This is the sixth wave. This is going to happen. We will not stop this, and pharma will eventually embrace AI structurally. So, but we're just in those first few years. But Bruce and I have seen opportunities literally in the last couple of weeks, plugging in huge amounts of data, qualitative data into Notebook LM, and it just summarizes in 5 seconds, doesn't it, Bruce?
Wasn't it?
What we could do in a day.
It was literally audio recordings of Paul and I interviewing. So you got a Scottish accent, you got Paul's English accent, you got American accents, and it was just audio recordings of hour-long interviews, millions of them, and it just sucked it all up and generated a report that was, I got to be honest, it would be hard to argue what we would have done was going to be any better. It was really, really quite impressive, you know. And you think that's quite a time saving. The only catch was, ask it to do it a second time, the report's different. Ask it to do it a third time, the report's different. And that, I think, is the problem with AI. It's very hard to kind of get it to make little adjustments. See, on the creative side as well, yeah, go make me an image of X, Y, and Z. Okay, great. So I had a real life one. We were campaigning in Ireland. Made me an image of an Irish footballer, but in front of, Irish Gaelic football goals. Okay, good. Can we have them looking the other way? Not so easy, that. Not the same one, you get a different footballer, In fact, I mean, that's okay, to be honest, in a lot of industries, but pharma struggles with these, it's got to be like exactly what they want. It can't be like, similar, So I think it's good for generating sort of basic pictures, but then you need an actual proper creative person taking over, But it's getting there.
One interesting thing I've heard also from one big pharma, what they're doing is that they're having someone who's dealing with the AI vendors, and his job is only to analyze their claims around the saving by their AI tool. So they're just going through it like, is it really what you're promising? Or is it like, a fluff, numbers that are being plucked out of the sky and just being thrown into a value proposition? So I thought that's really smart, because although maybe they are rushed, sometimes you have the tendency to rush to apply AI because you've seen a glamorous marketing campaign about this particular tool, but really does it deliver what it promises? And that's where you need to vet before you just go ahead and apply or maybe purchase.
And Nigel, I think that's it for questions. Yeah. Hands up, back to you to summarize with 2 minutes to go.
Well, firstly, I'll say thank you again, Brad, for a very thought-provoking discussion, as always. So I think take-home message for me, at least, I think it's very clear that Phraktion is leading the way in thinking around AI. And if anybody's listening to this, beyond into any kind of YouTube recording, you need to come and speak to Phraktion, Fouad and others around thinking about how you implement your AI strategies and really out taking leadership around that in your company. So I think that's very clear from the discussion, which has always been the case. The subjects we delve into, it's always very apparent. The depth of expertise and experience we have across the network is really, truly impressive. And, we need to work together to put that out there to many different clients across Phraktion. There's a valuable resource here. So that's the soapbox, if you like. But thank you, Fouad. And just an appeal, anybody out there? I know Lucilia is already put her hand up for a forthcoming webinar. If you'd like to take the stage or have some different ideas around the webinar, how we do this into the future, always available for a chat. So just let me know. But with that, I shall let you go. Great to see so many familiar and one or two less familiar faces this time. So with that, thanks everyone. Bye now.